Hey everyone, it's me Triton, and today's video is part 2 of my guide on how to best play Leia Organa. If you didn't have a chance to watch the first part, that's okay, because this part deals entirely with how to play Leia in the Heroes vs Villains game mode, while the first video pertained to Galactic Assault. If you do want to check out that video, there will be a link in the description, as well as a link in the outro of this video. Before we talk about strategy and matchups against the villains, let's talk star cards. Like my Leia setup in Galactic Assault, I am using epic level cards for High Spirit and for the Rebellion. The former allows Leia to recover a maximum of 100 health, while the latter, in the context of Heroes vs Villains, grants her 100 health for each villain she defeats. Staying alive is paramount in any game mode, and while your life resets to 100% when you become the target in Heroes vs Villains, these 2 star cards increase your chances of staying alive so you can move with your teammates from skirmish to skirmish. Lastly, instead of using Laser Brain like Galactic Assault, I have swapped that out for the star card Blinded. Blinding villains with her flash grenade while you and your teammate unleash a ton of damage can swing every group encounter, and it's equally effective in one-on-one scenarios. At an epic level, the enemies you blind will stay in that state for 30% longer, which is substantial. So considering that Leia is not going to be tweaked in the 1.2 patch update, this is definitely a star card I am going to upgrade to epic. In terms of Leia's abilities, the flash grenade is your best friend here. You should lead with it to start every engagement if you can. Between your pistol fire, potential damage from teammates, and rapid fire ability, you should be able to bring down most enemies with ease if done correctly. Now, I imagine there are some players who like mixing it up with Leia in close combat using her rapid fire ability, but I find that to be less than ideal. Her EL11 does spray a little bit, and you'll often be trading blaster fire for lightsaber strikes, which seldom puts you ahead. I like to use rapid fire as a last resort, as finishing blows if her pistol is about to overheat, or in certain matchups. Finally, her squad shield ability has some application, mostly if your team is huddled up in open space and the other team has several blaster users, particularly Boba Fett. Otherwise, I really haven't found much use for it, as I don't often play in a group of 4, and I know how frustrating it is for someone to put a shield around you when you're trying to go on the offensive. By now, you've probably been able to formulate the strategy I'm going to discuss based on my explanation of how I use Leia's abilities, but I'm going to cover it in a little bit more detail here. I find Leia to be a relatively flexible hero, capable of playing support or dishing out a fair amount of damage. Oftentimes, deciding which route to take is largely determined by the composition of your team. If you have all lightsaber users as teammates, then hanging back and using your flash grenade on enemies as they approach is a great tactic. Of course, you can get into the fray of things by using her rapid fire ability. You just want to make sure you don't put yourself in a position to get swarmed, as rapid fire won't take down more than one villain unless they have very little health. In one-on-one situations, I try to inflict as much damage with her pistol as possible via headshots, and then roll towards the enemy as they get really close. Lightsaber wielders will often lunge as they get close, and rolling at them creates a lot of separation once you stand up. Also, it provides a few extra seconds for your flash grenade ability to recharge, and once blinded, they'll mostly be at your mercy. As far as individual matchups go in one-on-one situations, and assuming you're engaging the opposing villain at mid-range, Leia has an advantage over Bossk, Emperor Palpatine, and Iden Versio. Bossk simply fires too slow, and you'll usually be able to roll out of his Dioxis. Be careful not to pursue him recklessly, as he may bait you with proximity mines, and so long as you aren't a standing target, his primary weapon is unlikely to keep up with Leia's pistol, and he has 50 less base health to begin with. Like Bossk, Palpatine is likely to receive a nerf when the 1.2 patch goes live, which will make this matchup even easier. He doesn't possess a ton of agility, and if you stay out of range of his lightning attacks, you can just pick him off from a distance. Iden is simply the worst hero or villain in the game, and in a straight gunfight at mid-range, Leia has 100 more base health and will inflict more damage over time than Iden. I find Leia to have a slight edge over Darth Maul, given that he can't defend against blaster fire outside of his 1-star card, which may not be equipped when you face him. He does possess more agility than the other Sith, so you'll have to stay moving, but I feel like he takes more overall damage per shot from Leia's pistol than Kylo Ren or Darth Vader. Speaking of Kylo, he's the most straight line attacker of all the lightsaber wielding Sith and can't deflect blaster fire as long as Vader can. If you get stuck in his freeze, it could be game over, but I honed my strategy against lightsaber users that I discussed earlier against many Kylo users, and it worked nearly every time. Captain Phasma can be tricky if you're too close and she has her survivor ability active. Obviously, you should never be in range of her turret, and the farther away you are from her, the more the matchup steers in your favor. Boba Fett can be tricky, and it largely depends on the opposing player. As a blaster wielder, you're able to pick him off while he's in flight, and your squad shield actually has utility against both types of his rockets. The 100 base health advantage helps here, and he's rather fragile once you start laying into him. Vader is by far the hardest to deal with, and that fits into the lore of the game in my opinion. You'll generally run into the version that has the bonus health star card, and his ability to deflect blaster fire for quite some time means that you'll be rather vulnerable by the time his stamina wears out. At his best, he can own a 350 base health advantage over Leia. Couple that with his focus rage ability, and you'll die rather quickly in close range, and rapid fire will absolutely not save you here. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown on how to best play Leia in the Heroes vs. Villains game mode. If you do try out these tactics, I'd love to know how well or not well they worked for you. You can always leave a comment below or interact with me on Twitter at TritonPlz. And as always, thank you guys so much for checking out this video and supporting the channel. I'll be giving you my thoughts on the 1.2 patch after it drops, hopefully later this week. But until that time, guys, may the Force be with you, and I hope you all have a great day.